Hello, I'm Bryan Hubbard. I'm helping to organise the Get Well show, which is happening at London's Olympia, February the 21st to the 23rd, imminently this year. And we've got over 40 speakers over the 3 days. And one of the most intriguing was a lady who's online with me now called Sandy Edwards. And I was particularly intrigued, Sandy, because our paths first crossed about a year ago when I came across this amazing study that you'd undertaken into spiritual healing and its effects. And you were an amazing woman who raised, I think, over £200,000 on the national lottery to get all this done, which I thought was quite amazing. And you've also written an amazing book called Healing in a Hospital, because that is where you do your work. So there's a lot of ground to cover in these few minutes, Sandy, but let's start from the beginning. So how did you become a spiritual healer?
Well, I had no sign of a natural healing ability, but I decided I must become a spiritual healer.
Okay.
So I was immediately pointed to a particular organisation called the Healing Trust nowadays,
Right.
that has fabulous training standards. You can't get better. And so I trained with them. And within 10 years, magically, I instigated this clinical research trial, which, as you say, was funded by the National Lottery to the tune of £205,000.
Yeah.
And the research itself was conducted by one of the cream universities of the world, University of Birmingham, which is a Russell Group university.
Right.
That's equivalent to the Ivy League in the States.
Right.
So you can't get better than this.
And
It's the largest largest medical trial of spiritual healing in the world. This was 200 long-term ill people, all NHS patients.
Right.
And the story how it came about is as amazing as the results are. The results are wonderful too.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is a big story.
It is a big, yeah. I mean, so just take that in chunks a little bit there. And you said you spent 10 years training. Does it?
No. 2 years training.
Okay.
And then from the moment of beginning training to the moment of beginning this research was 10 years. So within 10 years of starting training, I instigated the research trial.
Right.
And actually, I hadn't noticed the similarity. It took another 10 years from beginning that research application to its culmination of being published in medical journals.
Wow.
So you've got to have staying power for this kind of...
You do, and you do, obviously, and it pays off, which is remarkable. But after you had your initial training in how to do this work, you were very quickly involved in a hospital, weren't you?
Quite quickly, really, considering, but it was always in my mind, this needs to be in the NHS.
Right.
And I did open a voluntary healing group in Warsaw, the Midlands.
Right.
Again, with a little lottery grant that I managed to achieve. And that still offers healing to the public. But there are lots of those kind of groups all over the country.
Right.
And the more the better. But as it turns out, we discovered from the research trial and from the patients that came to the hospital that people who are hospital patients don't want to go to a voluntary healing group. They want to have healing at the hospital or at the doctor's surgery, where they feel safe that the therapy and the therapist has been cleared by the powers that be, by the medical profession. So, but the reason I became involved in the hospital work was because of the patients who came to our voluntary healing group. I've always been a volunteer healer, by the way. 5 years after we opened in 2000, a lady told me that her consultant had sent her, and he'd sent other people before, and he was pleased with the results. So I found out who that was and wrote to him. That was Dr. Sukhdev Singh at Good Hope Hospital in Birmingham, and suggested that I give healing as a volunteer to his patients at the hospital.
Right.
So that was how it first came about.
Right.
And soon after I began at the hospital, well, 2 weeks after I started, I asked if I could create an audit of what these people were saying. Just one 20-minute healing session. That's all it takes to give a healing session.
Right.
And after just 20 minutes, people were reporting really unusual things for the doctor to hear with his own ears and see with his own eyes.
Right.
And so I thought all of these lovely things that are being said are disappearing into the ether.
Right.
So I needed to create an audit, and it was on the strength of that we were able to get the lottery grant as well, because we had to give evidence that people were benefiting from this therapy and that they wanted to have this, more of this.
But now, I know the results were way beyond placebo. And I know that's often an attack on spiritual healing and many other modalities. It's just placebo, and it's way beyond that. But how far does it actually go? I mean, have you got so far as you've fully healed somebody, for example, or is it just helped relieve symptoms and made the medical treatment easier? Or how far does it go?
All of the above.
Right.
And the one of the stories in my book about one of the people on the research trial, he had 5 healing sessions on the research trial. As it happened, they were with me. And after the research trial, he had another 5. He had ulcerative colitis, for which there is no cure, no medical cure.
Right.
But as a result of coincidences, he had to have an investigation and discovered that he had no longer got ulcerative colitis. Absolutely no sign of it in his body. So yes, it is wow. And there was another one of Dr. Singh's patients who had been troubled for many years, and in 20 minutes everything stopped and he never had a problem again. 20 minutes. Say half an hour to say hello and goodbye.
So it's a 20-minute session. There's no touching of the body, is there? You're just putting hands over the body. Is that right?
We usually are trained to touch on the shoulders to begin, and then there's a touch on the feet, but we don't have to do that. But I like to use touch, but the most touch we do is only on the joints of the arms and legs.
Just to start,
And people stay fully clothed. They can wear their coat and hat if they want, their shoes, anything. It's absolutely fine.
Now, does this work because you're super gifted? Or do you think
that would be lovely?
Or do you think could anyone learn to do this?
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the same as cooking or learning a language. Some people are better at it naturally.
Right.
The rest of us, like me, have to make a big effort.
Right.
But from the very beginning of training, people that I was practicing on did comment that they were able to notice the difference during the healing session and afterwards. So something in that training ignited it.
And I suppose go on.
I was just going to say, and I'm proof that if anybody can do this, if they're passionate and determined.
Well, you certainly are determined, because you all those years getting the study done and all the rest of it. I mean, you have been determined. But,
yes, and it has been a joy. It's been a real joy, all of it.
But I mean, you're obviously a very intelligent woman, Sandy, and I'm sure the question has popped in your own mind. What the heck's going on? Do you have a theory as to why this works?
I've got a number of ideas that keep me on track to try not to question it, because even partway through a healing session I can think, how can this possibly help somebody? But it does, and it has done over and over, and not just for me, of course, for every healer. And there are so many people who are natural healers and they don't realise it. Probably everybody who's been drawn into the medical profession, for instance, and people who are in caring professions of any sort. So or looking after loved ones as a carer. So there are lots of people who are natural healers who don't realise it. And it's if you're in a caring job, it's good to at least have done the very first course of healing, so that you learn how to retain the integrity of your own energy whilst at the same time helping others, because it can be very draining if we don't do that.
I'm sure. Listen, we've just had a few minutes with you, Sandy. We've scratched the surface only.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I think everyone's got to come to hear you talk. I mean, you're going to be at the show 3 days. Are you going to have a stand there?
Yes.
So you'll be meeting and greeting and all the rest?
Yes. Number 18.
Stand 18. You're going to be demonstrating on the stand, but you're talking as well. And,
yes.
On Sunday.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon. So look, I mean, you're absolutely fabulous, Sandy, and you were you were top of my list of the people I wanted to come and speak. So I'm so blessed that you said yes.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing wonderful, wonderful work. So look, everybody, it's the Get Well show, as I say. It's 21st to the 23rd of February at London's Olympia, and Sandy and 39 other speakers will be there. And it's going to be an amazing showcase of alternative, interesting, innovative, breakthrough therapies that you really do want to hear about. So be there. And you can buy your tickets at getwell.solutions/show to buy your tickets beforehand. Sandy, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person on February the 21st.
Thank you.
And maybe you could do a bit of healing for me whilst you're there. So
yes,
great.
love to.
Lovely. Thanks,
Okay.
Sandy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.